This is the hardest entry that the man who wrote about Every Day with Barbara Streisand has ever written. James Brolin asked her to marry him 3 times before she said yes. He recently told the makers that he can't make a promise right now. As their medical bills keep coming in, their different bank accounts are finally being merged. They had their 25th wedding anniversary last year, and now they are facing their biggest problem. According to people who work in Hollywood, Brolin turned down a $2 million part just to stay home. The next part of his story might be the saddest. Craig Kenneth Brolin was James Brolin's birth name. He was born in Los Angeles on July 18, 1940, during a very hot spell. The day he got there, it was 103 degrees. Henry, his good-at-work builder father, barely made it to the hospital. He got there just 12 minutes before Craig was born. Henry was very strict about how he ran his home. Since he was 4 years old, Craig had daily jobs and behavior reviews once a week. Craig's mother was an extra in a movie once, but she never told him. She did not want him to spend time on something other than school. Craig was a quiet kid, in part because he had bad asthma. He was in the hospital for 45 days when he was 7 years old. He did have a smart mind though. He took apart and put together his dad's watch when he was 9 years old. Even though his teachers knew he was good at mechanics, no one could have imagined how much he would love James Dean. Craig's life changed when he saw East of Eden when he was 15. He rode his bike 17 miles to Griffith Park every Saturday for 6 months in secret. He copied Dean's voice, walk and look while he was by himself. He hid 73 paper clips of James Dean in his room behind a picture. He got an 8-ston camera with the money he saved by not having to deliver papers. He shot 24 silent reenactments with kids from the neighborhood. Craig didn't talk to anyone for 11 days after Dean died in a car accident. One of his short films was found by his acting teacher, who sent it to UCLA without telling him. Nicholas Ray, who directed Dean in Rebel Without a Cause, gave it an honorable mention. No matter how shy he was, that moment made Craig want to be an actor even more. He would throw up before every interview. He was told to change his name in 1960. The studio said that Brolin's voice sounded too German. They even had numbers. People were more likely to remember short names with hard sounds. Craig didn't want to do it. He fought against it in 7 talks. But the movie studio won. Because he was crazy about James Dean, they gave him James. For more than a year, his dad didn't talk to him. His mum sent his new photos to family members to try to explain. James couldn't sleep for 214 nights straight without pills. After all that, the studio told him he looked too much like Dean, which was exactly what they wanted. Brolin got small parts on the Batman TV show in 1966. The first role he played was a bank worker. Because he liked how he dropped the money bags, he got more time on TV. He was cast as the Eraser by a different director months later, who didn't know he had already been on the show. He did his own tricks and broke 3 ribs. Then Adam West chose him for a 3rd part. No one on the set knew he had been cast twice before. At the time, he didn't have a place to live and was living in a 1958 Chevy and taking showers at Fox Studios. Everything broke down in 1967. He was in the Cape Town Affair, a movie he said would not do well. He wrote notes about the bad plots and problems with the culture. Not a soul listened. The movie bombed. He lost his job while going to see his mum in the hospital. Even worse, Fox told him he had to return $11,400 in pay. He had no money. He couldn't get a job for 18 months. People in Van Nuys didn't know he used to be a rising star because he worked as a mechanic for them. Then fate took over. A manager at Universal brought his car in to be fixed, and the way Brolin worked on it impressed him. He told him to take a test. Brolin got the part that changed his life because of that test. Marcus Welby MD was his role, and he played Dr. Stephen Kiley on the show from 1969 to 1976. Brolin played a young doctor who worked with an older partner and rode a motorbike. A lot of people really liked the show. An Emmy was given to him in 1970. After that, 2 Golden Globes came along. The show was the most watched on ABC by the end of its 2nd season. talked about very important health problems like Alzheimer's, cancer, and depression. Protests happened after an episode about homosexuality, but Brolin stayed true to his goal of telling important stories. He played a serious part in Skyjacked in 1972. He played an angry Vietnam veteran who takes over a plane. He was in a movie with Charlton Heston. The movie was exciting and tense, and Brolin made the part seem real. Some people thought he did a great job as the crazy attacker, even though it was over the top. It showed that he wasn't just a calm doctor. After that, Westworld came out in 1973. He played John Blaine, a sure of himself traveler to a theme park where robots looked and behaved like people. It was a hit science fiction movie that used video effects for the first time. In a shocking scene, Brolin's character dies in the middle of the movie. The rest of the movie was even more powerful after that twist. His work gave the movie depth and variety. Brolin played scary roles in 1979. In the Amityville Horror, he played George Lutt. At first, he wasn't sure about the movie until reading the story scared him. His pants just fell off of a chair. It meant something to him. The movie did very well at the box office, making over $80 million. It was scary to see Brolin play a man who was slowly falling apart. It showed the worries about losing money and having to deal with family problems. In the late 1970s, a lot of people felt. Even though he and co-star Margot Kidder fought behind the scenes, it was good for the story. Brolin showed his funny side in Pee-wee's Big Adventure in 1985. He faked being Pee-wee and played a cool secret agent. It was a clever nod to the fact that he looked a lot like James Bond. He also played the lead role in the TV show. The show ran for 5 years and gave Brolin a stable job. He played Peter McDermott, the well-dressed boss of a fancy hotel in San Francisco. There was new drama and new guests in every show, but Brolin was always the main character. He was even in charge of some shows. He was up for 2 Golden Globes during that time. He met someone new because of it. Jan Smithers, who would become his wife, was a guest star on While He Was Going Through a Rough Breakup. On the other hand, Barbra Streisand was born on April 24, 1942, in Brooklyn. Diana was a school secretary, and Emmanuel was a well-known teacher. He only made $4,200 a year, not even enough to keep the family in their small apartment. Barb's father died after having a seizure when she was only 15 months old. They only had $250 saved, so they had to move in with her folks. Friday, after having a seizure, she never met her dad, but she found a note he had written in her baby book years later. It seems like this one is going to be different. In 1949, Barbara's mother got married again and she had a half-sister. Things didn't get better though. He was cold and once told her he would break her heart. She left home when she was 16 years old, in 1958. She didn't have any money or a place to go. She stayed anywhere she could for a year and a half. You can sleep on friends' chairs, old cots, or even fire escapes in the summer. There were 3 outfits, 2 sets of shoes, and 12 records in her one suitcase, which was held together with tape. She still went to school every day, even back then. She worked part-time for 75 cents an hour and learned in coffee shops and libraries. Her only income was $17 a week, but she was able to eat by visiting her mother twice a week, just in time for dinner. This way, she could hide the fact that she was homeless. She fixed her coat and even dyed it a different color with costume supplies she had lying around for 3 years. Barbara had a job as an usher at a theater in 1960 and was making just over $46 a week. She saw and listened to the same play over 100 times. She knew every line by heart, and before work, she sang in the theater by herself to get better. A stage manager heard her sing one night. He asked her who she was because he thought she was an assistant. She said out loud that she was trying out. Even though she wasn't, just because they were close, she sang for 3 casting directors right then. 2 days later, she was working as a singer in a bar for $108 a night, which was double her normal pay. But she was fired because she broke the rules. It didn't matter. She had just taken her first real step into show business. She had never taken singing lessons before that. To learn, she sang in subways and stairwells to check for echoes and get small crowds. Later that same year, she was living in a small, hot apartment with a friend named Barry Dinnan. She agreed to record 3 songs because of him. Barbara had to stay still and 27 inches away from the mic while they used an old reel-to-reel recorder. Barry dropped his coffee mug in shock when they played the tape back. He had never heard a voice like hers before. 14 people in the music business heard the tape. Some people didn't think it was real. One music executive was sure it had been properly engineered and wouldn't believe it was made by a teenager with no training. But the truth came out, and that rough tape is now in the Library of Congress. After that night, everything changed. September came around, 1960. Barbara, who was only 18, walked onto the stage of a nightclub wearing a dress she got from a thrift store for $6. Her earrings were not the same. That month, she had already been turned down for 7 interviews, often because she looked too weird. She was told by one director that she had a $1 million voice but a 5-cent face. But that night she sang Cry Me a River and then Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf, in a funny way. The crowd stopped talking. The judges gave her perfect marks. For the first time ever, it took place there. Someone who wasn't nice even said that her nose might become as famous as her voice. She had 23 paid gigs in just 2 months. She showed that ability wasn't tied to being pretty. She changed her name a lot in 1961. She dropped the second A and became Barbara. She said it made her stand out. She didn't get plastic surgery to change how she looked, and she kept singing the strange songs she liked. 7 people showed up to her show one cold night. It didn't bother her. She played like everyone was there. It worked because she wouldn't change to fit in. After that came Broadway. I Can Get It For You Wholesale was the name of the show she was in 1962. The day before the big tryout, she had a fever of 103 degrees. She did show up. Her big scene was almost cut because it was too strange, but she fought for it. The crowd made her sing it 3 times on the first night. She only played a minor role, but the reviews were only about her. It was written in the press that she was the funniest thing on Broadway since Fanny Brice. She used to make $175 a week, but her contract was changed 5 times. Barbara's first record came out in 1963. There were only 10,000 records made by Columbia Records. They believed it would fail. It only had show tunes and ballads, no hits. But in just 1 month, it sold 150,000 copies. She was in charge. The songs were her choice. She turned down a color cover and chose a simple black and white one instead. It went against everything marketers say to do. She got a Grammy for Album of the Year for that record. Frank Sinatra lost to her. They quit because they were so mad about the Grammys. She said, "This isn't luck," in her short statement. This is what happens when you don't pay attention to people who don't see things the way you do. After a year, she was in Funny Girl as Fanny Brice. Brice's daughter didn't want her to play the part. She thought Barbara was too young, too Jewish, and not pretty enough. When people heard she got the part, they took out more than $1 million. Barb broke it, though. She played the part 867 times. I only missed 2 shows. She didn't stop even when she had COVID. Because her voice could go up and down 3.5 octaves, she sang songs that were made just for her. In one scene, a fountain broke and soaked her, but she kept singing. He loved it so much that he added it to the show. People were not happy when the show went to London. But by the end, people were selling passes for £150 on the black market. Something crazy at the time. 1965, she made a deal with CBS to be on TV. For 10 shows, it was worth $5 million. Even though she was only 23, the deal gave her full power. Anything that CBS did had to be okay with her first. Commercials couldn't come on during her songs. Her very first show, My Name is Barbara, broke all the rules. She began the show by singing by herself in the dark. 71% of people who were watching TV that night were tuned in, even though executives were scared. She got 5 Emmys. She even made the show's cuts herself. Later, the director said he had only done what she told him to do. She left Broadway for the movies in 1968, making her mark on movie history. She played the lead in Funny Girl. She played Fanny Brice, the part that made her famous on stage. The movie went extremely well at the box office and was the biggest hit of the year in the US. The Academy Award for Best Actress went to Barbara because of how powerful her performance was. It was her first movie ever. The fact that she tied with Katharine Hepburn was even more shocking. It was the only tie ever in that Oscar category. The movie got 8 Oscar nods and proved that Barbara was no longer just a stage star, but also a movie star. After many years, the Library of Congress kept Funny Girls safe as a national asset. Then there were other things Barbara did besides plays. What's Up, Doc? Was a big risk for her in 1972. Funny, crazy show with Ryan O'Neal. She didn't like the story at first and told reporters it would fail, but big changes were made behind the scenes. Her part was changed to be more fun, and O'Neal played the serious one. It worked, it was a hit, and it was the 3rd most beloved movie of the year. Barbara made more than her co-star, $500,000 for the part, and reviewers loved how funny she was. The movie became a classic and is now one of the best American sitcoms of all time. Barbara starred with Robert Redford in The Way We Were the next year. This book was set in America during a very tense political time and told the story of a passionate Jewish campaigner and a charming writer. The movie made $50 million, even though it only cost $5 million to make. Barbara was nominated for another Oscar, and the movie also won the top award in Italy. She sang the title song, which was the biggest hit of 1974 and sold more than 2 million copies. After many years, it was added to the Grammy Hall of Fame. Barbara wanted to have more power over her work by this point. She started her own film company, Barwood Films, in 1972. Up the Sandbox was her first project. It was a strange but brave movie about a bored housewife who escapes into her dreams. Critics liked how brave it was to deal with feminism, but it didn't do well at the box office. Reviewers said she had the same movie presence as greats like Greta Garbo. Roger Ebert said she played a woman who didn't seem to care what other people thought, which wasn't often seen in movies at the time. Then in 1976, A Star Is Born came out. Barbara didn't just act in it, she also made it. Evergreen, the love song from the movie, was a huge hit. She was the first woman to win an Oscar for writing music, and she co-wrote the song. It won a Golden Globe and a Grammy as well. The song Evergreen was later named one of her best ever, and she won another Golden Globe for it. What a hard-won victory that was. With her first movie, Yentl, coming out in 1983, Barbara fought hard for artistic control. She worked on it for 15 years. 12 companies turned her down before one finally gave her $14.05 million. She wore tight bindings to hide herself, worked 20-hour days, and led a team of 168 mostly men. Some people even bet that she would fail, but she showed them all they were wrong. It made more than $40 million. Still, one person said he wouldn't vote for her because she was a woman. At that time, women were only in charge of 0.5% of big company movies. Even though Yentl got great reviews in 1984, the Golden Globes wouldn't put Barbara in the top category for directing. They made up a one-time award just for her instead, winner for Best Director in a musical or comedy. That title went away the following year. Barbara asked nicely at the gathering why she wasn't just added to the group with the others. Congress used her case as proof of gender bias in Hollywood after it became so well known. She didn't give up after years went by. With The Prince of Tides, which came out in 1991, she went back to directing. The story went through 26 drafts over the course of 3 years. She shot in South Carolina after a hurricane, hiring dozens of people who had lost their homes. The movie made $63 million and was nominated for 7 Oscars. The Directors Guild finally gave her an award. She was the first woman to be nominated in their 44-year history. But the Oscars didn't put her in the running for Best Director. People were even more angry when they learned that 94% of Oscar voters for directors were guys. Barb made more history in 1995. The concert special she directed for HBO got the Directors Guild Award for television directing. She was the first woman to ever win that award. There were 125 people working on the show and 11 cameras set up in 223 different ways. Barbara was having terrible stage fright from a show she had in 1967 where she forgot the words. She hadn't been on stage in 27 years because she was afraid. 26 million people watched the show, which made $93 million. Barbara brought up the fact that only 3.7% of TV directing jobs had gone to women at the event. It had been 25 years since her first fight with the DGA over the same problem. Barbara's private life was often painful when she wasn't in the public eye. It was in 1963 that she married actor Elliot Good. Jake, their son, was born in 1966,